Welcome back to the Boot Tragedies.
Welcome back. I know a long hiatus for us outside looking in. I guess we can call this season two. I'm back. A lot of y'all know me as the boot, but a lot of y'all know me as Aaron now. We did that little reveal, and we're back with Dre. Dre, say what's up.
What's up?
Yeah, and we're gonna jump right into this, man. Obviously, we did this show last year during the football season. Inconsistent, I'll take the blame for that. But we're gonna be back this year, 2 shows a week. In this first one, man, we're gonna talk about the rookie quarterbacks. A lot of talk has been surrounding the rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, you got number one pick in the draft, and they just got polarizing figures also. And I'm just gonna go down the list, kind of have them written down, and we can just kind of start with Cam Ward from Tennessee. I'll let you take this one away, Dre.
So, I mean, with going into the draft, to me, it was really between Cam and Shedeur. I don't think the Titans could have gone wrong with either one. But if you wanted to, in a sense, keep the media out of it and keep it fully on football, then Cam is the choice. So, they picked Cam. I think it's a fine choice. We'll see how they actually do because at the end of the day, Tennessee needs a lot of help. So if they can build a team around him, I know just recently, Traylon Burks, even though he hasn't had the best career leading up, but they waived him, because of an injury and whatnot. So if he can have a rapport with the receivers that they have there and they can continue going around him, it could, it should be a good thing. Not expecting them to compete this year, but it should make things interesting, moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like Cam Ward. I thought he was easily the number one quarterback. I think his ceiling is probably way higher than Shadeur's. Uh, got a strong arm. He's kind of that Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen ish kind of mold of a big strong arm. Obviously, has to be accurate with that. Has to get used to a pro style offense, but they have good weapons over there. So I do think he'll have a decent rookie year. But like you said, man, the no media. He's number one pick, and he's probably been covered probably not even in the top three quarterbacks in
Right.
his draft class, and he's the number one pick. So definitely no media is going to Tennessee, and definitely no media hype surrounding Cam Ward like some of these other quarterbacks. And I mean, I won't even make y'all wait any longer. A lot of people gonna be tuning in for this one, and it's Shedeur Sanders, man. We just gonna go on, crank it up. I know I got two wrists up there, but hey, Shedeur, obviously the most polarizing quarterback, probably the most polarizing player in the last couple drafts that I can remember in the NFL. Usually in the NFL, you don't really get these polarizing type figures because it's always like, the logo is bigger than the player. The NBA is more polarizing figures. So Shedeur obviously came out. And with the Browns, just the Browns' luck, Joe Flacco didn't play. Kenny Pickett's kind of dealing with an injury. Gabriel's dealing with an injury. So basically, they only had Shedeur. And it was a good thing and a bad thing in my opinion because he obviously didn't get a lot of first team reps, even though a lot of first teamers didn't play. But not getting those reps in practice, thrown in the fire of, hey, you're probably going to play 3 quarters with a bunch of guys that you have limited reps with. So that was going to be a tough thing for him to overcome. And I think he went out there and played well. Now he didn't play perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to go out there and was like, oh my God, they just found Tom Brady in the fifth
Right.
round. But I do think he played pretty well under those conditions. Missed some gimmies, but also extended the play, made some really good throws. Which while a lot of people had him going in the first round, he definitely showed that he showed nothing on tape. Like, you know what? I see why he was a fifth rounder. Everything he even showed in the preseason in that practice still shows he probably should have been a first or second rounder. Obviously, it didn't happen that way. But like everyone says, once you're drafted, man, that means nothing anymore. That means nothing. So you're gonna have to go out there and produce. And I think he did a really good job for his first opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. And I agree, his game wasn't perfect, but you could definitely tell that as the game progressed that he got more comfortable. He was making better decisions, quicker decisions. He actually got a little bit more confidence in him because he was, throwing a lot more into the tight windows and whatnot. So I think that was good, good for him to get that feel out there, no matter what people think about the Carolina Panthers this year. But I think it's a good sign, and I agree. Once you're drafted, it doesn't matter. But this is the only thing that does matter because he is a fifth round pick. He doesn't have basically any guarantee of a roster spot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he did well enough to prove that he deserves, a chance at being on the roster. I think he should be on the roster at the end of the day. But he didn't go out there and look like, oh, okay, he's about to get cut at the end of, once roster cuts come around and everything. So, a lot of NFL teams, I think this entire season, depending on how long Flacco starts, and then if Shedeur does get a chance to start at some point, I think it's going to be a lot of NFL teams are going to, have to answer some questions as to why didn't y'all pick Shedeur? He was sitting there, he was there for 5 rounds, all that kind of stuff. Because usually the polarizing stuff, especially for black quarterbacks, is do they play quarterback or do they get switched to wide receiver and different things like that. That didn't happen to Shedeur. It was just literally, is he a first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, fourth round pick, and it just kept going on down. So we'll see. Maybe at some point, if he doesn't end up staying with the Browns, I do have a list of a couple teams I think should trade for him, but I'll hold that, for another segment.
And I saw somewhere where I forgot who it was that some people think the Browns may even keep 4 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, which would be absolutely crazy because you're kind of wasting a roster spot. But obviously they're going to keep Flacco. There's their starter. Kenny Pickett seems like he's going to be the backup. You're not going to cut Gabriel. You drafted him before the Shedeur, and I highly doubt you want to cut Shedeur because I think he'll get signed the next day. He might not even make it to your practice squad.
Right.
So they're going to be in a tough spot, and they may have to keep 4 quarterbacks. Maybe they want Flacco to play good for 2-3 games or Pickett or something and make them trade bait because, honestly, the Browns are going nowhere this year. So having Flacco go out there and start 17 games or, that just wouldn't make any sense. I think their peak wins would be 7. So, why would you just start 50-year-old Joe Flacco for all those games, man? I think each quarterback on their roster actually will get probably a chance to play this year. So I do think Shedeur will get a chance to start some games because I don't think the Browns will be good at all. So it's just going to be interesting to see, how they work, that situation with those quarterbacks. And I guess we could touch on Dillon Gabriel while we're here too, because it'll be quick because he hasn't played. Obviously got a little small injury in camp, but he was back practicing. But he's been trash in camp. I mean, it's just simple as that. I've been following their quarterback tracker in camp, and he just hasn't been good. He just doesn't look like a good NFL quarterback. I didn't think he was an NFL quarterback coming out. Maybe I think at best he had a chance to be a backup for someone, but at the moment it's super early, obviously, but it just doesn't look good for Dillon Gabriel. So it's evident that he's the 4th best quarterback, on their roster. 5 if you want to include Deshaun Watson. So I'm not sure how long that'll last because the one thing about the fans, man, we might be crazy, but fans aren't stupid. They see these things at practice. They see those stats. They see those numbers. They see how well Shedeur played. You can't hide him for too long. He's going to have to go out there in the preseason and play, and we already saw what Shedeur can do. So it's going to be it's an uphill battle for him, and he was drafted higher than Shedeur. So we'll see how that plays out for him.
Yeah, because the main thing is nowadays training camp is all on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're seeing all the footage. This isn't, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s where, everything could be hidden and you just find out once the game actually happens in person. Like we're seeing this stuff. And, they even put out their own little montage of, I think it was like 5 straight passes for Dillon Gabriel. And he missed every single pass. There were some bad throws, some overthrows, some bad decisions. Like it wasn't good. One, it also doesn't, help him in the fact that he is literally the shortest quarterback on the roster. I think he's 5'11", if I'm not mistaken. So he's trying to overcome that. And if you're going to be that short of a quarterback, you got to model your game after Kyler Murray. Like I know Kyler Murray's not consistent, but he's at least shown you that he can be a legit professional quarterback. So he's got to do something, but it's not looking good right now. But I don't know whose decision it was to draft Dillon Gabriel and whose decision it was to draft Shedeur. But right now it's looking like somebody's trying to prove that they were the smartest man in the room, for picking Dillon Gabriel. We'll see how it works out, but I don't think it's going to work out that well for him.
Yeah, again, I guess we can go to the other big fish, first rounder, Jackson Dart for the Giants. I think I actually watched that game, played really, really well in that game. I think he might be in the best position out of all of the quarterbacks just because, he's sitting behind 2 guys that's done it, on both levels, college and the NFL with Jameis Winston, who's thrown for like 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. You got Russell Wilson, who's won multiple Super Bowls. So he's behind 2 really good guys in New York. So he's technically the 3rd string quarterback at the moment. So I think he'll play this year just because, you can't draft a guy in the 1st round and not play him. It's just simple as that. I don't know how many games he'll play, but I feel like an injury comes up if Russell Wilson starts to struggle. I think he'll get a couple starts in this season, or if the Giants just going to be awful. And then I think he'll just start maybe like the last 4 or 5 games of the year. But I do think he'll get to play. But I liked what I saw, man. I see a lot of people, have the Josh Allen comparison, but it's any big quarterback at this point that can run a little bit is probably going to get a Josh Allen comparison.
Yep.
At first it was the Cam Newton, but now it's kind of turned into the Josh Allen comparison. I even compared Cam Ward to him earlier. So any big quarterback that can move just a little bit, probably going to get that Josh Allen comparison. But I can see why people compare it to him. I mean, he can run it a little bit. He has a really, really good arm, had a nice touchdown pass that he threw. And I wasn't high on him to be a first rounder. Definitely not, draft to be first Shedeur. That one kind of surprised me. Well, I wouldn't say surprised me. The NFL should never surprise me with those type picks. But I think he played well. Actually impressed me more, than I thought with Jackson Dart. But long ways to go from him. For him, like I said, he's going to be sitting behind two really good guys. So I do think that's going to be the best thing for him. If he was to come out there and be a day one starter, then I would be nervous. But since I don't think he'll play that much this season, I have definitely a better outlook for his future.
Yeah, I was shocked and surprised when the Giants traded back into the first round to select him. I know there were, all the rumors and reports leading up to the draft that, they had another workout. I think it was between him and Shedeur, maybe not at the same time, but like around within the same week, they met with both of them again. The Giants really liked them and everything. I thought, maybe they'd get him in the second round. But, I think the best thing for Jackson Dart is the fact that he's got two veterans ahead of him and two veterans, like you said, that have been through it all. They've been through the highs and they've been through the lowest of lows that you can potentially go through. I really think the only negative thing that could potentially happen in his rookie season is the fact that at the end of the season, he could go into next season with a new head coach. That would be a very, pretty much only negative thing that could go on, because I don't think he should start until the Giants are officially eliminated from playoff contention. Yeah, like as long as they're in playoff contention, Russell Wilson should be their starter. If something happens to Russell Wilson, you can throw Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston's always going to give you something good for about 2-3 games. So We'll see what happens there. And then once they're out of it, throw the rookie in there and see what he can do. I think he has a bright future ahead of him if Daboll can stay as coach and they can grow together. But if they fire Daboll at the end of the year and bring somebody else in, that could be that could hinder his progression and everything going forward. So I think that's really the only negative thing. But like you said, I think he's in a good spot. We'll see how that pass rush helps him out, because the pass rush on your team is a good friend for the quarterback. So we'll see how great that Giants pass rush ends up actually being. But my team right here, I don't think we're too worried about him right now. But we'll see, we'll see what happens in in a couple seasons and whatnot. But they did a decent pick. We'll see.
And since we're on my team, I guess that's just a good segue into Tyler Shough. It's gonna be very, very hard for me not to call him Tyler Shough, just because, like, come on, man, why we did that. But Tyler Shough, obviously, of the Saints. I already talked about him a little bit on the channel, so I'm gonna let you take this one away. Fresh game. Obviously, they just played the Chargers up and down game, but like I said, I'll let you take this one away.
So from my alma mater, U of L, I was
true.
I was a little shocked. He played well for us. I mean, our football team, we've been bad for the past couple of seasons, but he came in, brought us into. We actually contended in the ACC. Had a bowl game and everything. So I wasn't surprised that teams were actually looking at him. I was just a little surprised with how early he went in the draft. And then I think the other thing that really surprised me the most, I don't think the Saints really drafted him to be their starter. It's just that they ended up having, the surprise, with Derek Carr retiring and all that kind of stuff. So, hey, he's going to be thrown into the fire. And with that, it's him and a rookie head coach, Kellen Moore. Y'all are welcome. I say that before anything actually happens. We'll see how the season happens. Then I may or may not say you're welcome. But we'll see how they actually grow together. I think the best thing for him is have a running game. If you guys have a running game and you don't have to put all the pressure on him, he can go out there and just throw. I'd say anywhere. Actually, just play the same way that our offense was last year. Focus on the running game. Have the quarterback throw 20 to 25 times a game. You should be good. Now, if y'all got him out there throwing 30 plus, something's going on. But I think it's gonna be rough at the start. And as the season goes, he'll get better. He'll show some consistency. I think consistency would be his best thing going forward. I just don't think he has a super high ceiling, but I think as a decent average starting quarterback in the league, I think that's the best bet for him.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said some of those things too. And I mean, he's in a quarterback battle right now too, which I think is going to go on for the entire season. Him and Spencer Rattler probably going to battle it out all year. Spencer Rattler got the nod today. I think Shough's probably going to get the first team reps for the next game, and we'll just see how it goes back and forth. But both of those guys are probably going to start at minimum 5 or 6 games this year. So I don't think he has to worry about that, just because the Saints will start 2 quarterbacks this year. Like I said, we'll be in position to start 2 quarterbacks. Even though we're going to win the Super Bowl, we're still going to start 2 quarterbacks. So we'll see how that goes with Tyler. I think he played well today. Obviously threw a pick 6, threw a big touchdown, took a couple sacks, a rookie in his first NFL game. It looked exactly like a rookie would look. And we could do some quick hits with the rest of the guys. Jalen Milroe. I watched a little bit of that game. Jalen Milroe is what he is. He's going to be an inconsistent passer, and he's going to run the ball. That's going to be him. If he can get, semi-consistent at that pass game throughout his career, then maybe he can eventually be a starting quarterback. It can almost kind of be like a Jalen Hurts situation. I think Jalen Hurts started towards the end of the season, his rookie year. Kind of be that type of thing where maybe we just throw him out there in game 15 and see what happens. Because the one thing he'll be able to do for the next 5 to 10 years is run the ball. So when all else fails, hey, run that motherfucker. So he's definitely going to be able to do that. Just has to be able to complete like 60% of his passes, hit the wide open guys when they're wide open. And I think he'll have a solid career in the NFL. And at worst, he can start off maybe like in a Taysom Hill package role. They can have theirs up there for him because he's still obviously a good dual threat, but he can actually throw the ball a little bit. So, wildcat, but for the actual quarterback, I think a lot of teams kind of want that, mobile quarterback to run some of those things. Obviously, the Eagles do it with Hurts. They just won a Super Bowl, and basically every quarterback in NFL at this point is mobile. So that's just going to be a big plus for him to use his legs early on. Don't know what they're going to do up there as a team, but I do think he'll get some chances to play this year. I don't know if he'll start, but he'll definitely get some chances to play.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing there is I don't know really what to read about the Seahawks at all this year. I don't understand some of their offseason decisions. So to be honest, they could be contending for a wild card spot, or they could be contending for the first, second pick, in the draft coming up. Who knows? I think with Sam Darnold, if they're getting the exact same Sam Darnold that the Vikings had last year, then I think they're competing for a wild card spot. If they're getting the Sam Darnold from the rest of his career, then I think Miller will be he'll start a couple games, like probably the last 4 or 5 games, the season, things like that. But for Milroe, here's what I'll say. For him, as his floor, try and follow Tyrod Taylor's career. You do that, you'll have longevity in the NFL. You'll always have a job. You'll be good. Now we'll see what his ceiling is, but I think it's his floor. If he shoots for that to be his floor, then I think he'll be good.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That's kind of a good comp for him. I think he's a little bigger than Taylor, but still just a guy that was a backup when he needed to start. Had a pretty good season. I think the doctors over there set him up when they punctured his lungs. But that's a really good pro career. He should probably base his off. Obviously, you want to be a starter in all this, but I mean, as your floor, if that's your floor, hey man, that's generational money. You had a good career, but like I say, obviously everybody wants to be that guy. So we'll see what how it turns out for him. Obviously, some other guys, Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, who I watched play today, Riley Leonard. I don't really care too much about those guys. Those guys are probably going to just be fighting for roster spots. I think yours is interesting, though. I would talk about him just because Tua's going to get hurt this year. I mean, you can bank on that. Tua's going to be out at some point, and if he can win that quarterback 2 role, I think that'd be a good opportunity for him. Because honestly, if Tua gets one more concussion, shit, it might be over for him. So if you can go in there and show why at one point you were a highly touted recruit, why Texas wanted you as well, then I think that could be a really, really good fit for him. Obviously, playing with Tyreek Hill and Waddle, that doesn't hurt at all. So he may end up being a quarterback that's thrown into the fire this year and has really good weapons around him, and he can sink or swim right there. You can go out there and play great. Like I said, if Tua's hurt, then you may be able to steal his job if the Dolphins want to move on from Tua if it's another concussion type situation. Obviously, if Tua's healthy, then scratch all of this because Tua's their guy and they pay him too much money. But I do think he has, I guess, the best chance to be, steal a job out of all of these quarterbacks that we didn't mention yet.
So what I would say about that is if Tua gets hurt, we don't wish injury anybody, but if he goes out there and doesn't protect himself anymore, think about Brock Purdy. The way that Brock Purdy came in with the Niners, he had all the weapons around him. He just basically had to go out there and, do the offense the exact way that Kyle Shanahan had, designed the plays, had everything ran. Timing and everything is, what was important there. Same thing in Miami. Timing is 100% important for everything. So if he just goes in there, understands when he's supposed to hit Tyreek, when he's supposed to hit Waddle, the running backs out the backfield and everything, that could be. I'm not going to say that, if he starts, the Dolphins are going to the, NFC Championship game or AFC Championship game or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but just saying how Brock Purdy came in, he was able to, keep the offense going, keep the season going. They could still compete. I think he could do the same thing for the Dolphins, just because the offenses, the schemes are, similar in the way that they run and the way that the coaches are.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And I mean, that's your rookie quarterback class right now. I do think the ones that played in the preseason game, they actually didn't look pretty bad. They didn't look pretty bad. I know a lot of people were saying it's a weak quarterback class, and even though I do agree, I do think they played fairly decent for the most part when they went out there. Still a long way to go. Obviously, first preseason game for some. A long way to go. Defense is really, being basic right now. A lot of these guys aren't really playing with full starters, aren't playing against full starting defenses. So it's going to be a lot more to judge from now. But I do think it was a good start for most of these guys that got out there and played. No one went out there and just absolutely looked like they didn't belong in the NFL. And maybe luckily some of them were hurt and they didn't get that chance to. But I do think that they all look pretty good going out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's early. It's the preseason. We'll see what happens. We'll see how things go forward. I just know that, if any team out there, you have a rookie quarterback and they're not really shaping up the way that you thought, you've got a starter and the starter ain't really shaping up the way that you thought. Tanner McKee, he is available. He was lighting up that Bengals defense. I'm just saying,
I don't think NFL
we'll take a
GMs
first round
are gonna
pick
make it
for
to
him.
the
I'm just throwing that out there. It is what it is. Hey, Tanner McKee, he's available.
And I said I wouldn't do this, but since we're running out of time here, I'm gonna give this guy the floor, to talk about some stuff that happened last year. I don't know why we're talking about last football season for some reason, but I guess I can give him a couple minutes. I might just end it while he's talking if he gets too crazy. But I guess I'll give him a couple minutes to talk about. I think something happened last year in football. I just kind of forget because I'm on 2025, 2026 season when the Saints go win the Super Bowl. So we can let him talk.
All I'm saying is we're not defending anything. This is a brand new season. Everybody's fighting for the same thing. I just know that last football season, a team that nobody thought about, a team that nobody probably thought would win it. We had, the bad season where we had great stats, but it kind of all went down the hill, midway through the season, got destroyed in the wild card game by the Bucks and everything. But Saquon, everybody said that, hey, we overpaid him. He wasn't going to be the same running back. He went out there and ran for the most yards in NFL history, including regular season and playoffs combined. AJ Brown was still an all-pro, even after missing a couple games. Smitty's still showing y'all why it doesn't matter that he's not the biggest wide receiver out there. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. Vic Fangio comes in, turns the defense around. We got the number one defense. Cooper DeJean. Nobody thought a white cornerback could go out there and play like that. And look, he's out there shutting down Jamar Chase in the backfield and everything. Quinyon Mitchell was out there acting like he young Darius Slay, shutting people down, shutting down Terry McLaurin. He can't catch the ball. He could in the playoffs. So we're gonna correct that and get that better this year. He's gonna give himself a couple picks. Jalen Carter, the best defensive tackle in the league. I'm just going to throw that out there. Zach Bond. I want to thank all Saints fans for Zach Bond, like, who knew? Who knew?
We did.
I mean,
we did.
Fangio and Howie Roseman knew, but I mean, who knew? Like, we brought CJ back. CJ, we went to Super Bowl the last time with him. We went to Super Bowl and won it this time with them. It ended a little rocky, but hey, it is what it is with CJ. You always know. So, but it was a great season, great game to watch. It always comes down to the Philadelphia Eagles that we have to be the ones to knock the king off his throne. We had to knock Tom Brady off his throne. We knocked Patrick Mahomes off his throne.
True.
I don't know what it is about the NFC East, but between the Eagles and the Giants, if we are in the Super Bowl against the GOAT of that generation, for some reason we just find a way to get it done. So, but that's all I'm gonna say. Last season was a great season. This is a brand new season. We gotta go out there and do it again. It's a brand new team, brand new players and everything. But I'm expecting great things again. I'm not gonna make my predictions just yet, but I am expecting great things.
We gonna save those. We're gonna save those right before the regular season. But before we do get out of here, I do want to ask one question. Who do you think had the best performance week 1 preseason? Rookie quarterbacks. Who would you give the game ball to out of all of them?
Best one, I'm gonna say Cam Ward, and that's because they had a drive. Everything that you want your rookie quarterback to do, he did it. Can you command the offense? Can you go down the field, execute the game plan? And then at the end of the day, he brought like what we said earlier, there's still no media around it. There is nothing negative about his game, anything like that. The same way that they were talking about him beforehand, which was pretty much not at all. They're still talking about him the same way, which is pretty much not at all. So I'm gonna give it to Cam Ward. He's the first overall pick. He went out there, did what he had to do. They got him out of there. And so I'm gonna give it to him.
And I'll answer this and get out of there. But it's only one answer to this question, man, and that's no other than Tyler Shedeur. Come on now, Shedeur going out there against all odds. I mean, come on. I wasn't even a big Shedeur fan. I thought he was gonna be like a second or third round pick coming into the year. But all the hate he's been getting, everybody saying he wouldn't have got drafted if it wasn't for his dad. He's never been good, this or that. That's just making me become more of a fan of Shedeur. And I think he went out there, balled out. He had the Panthers fans out there hitting the Shedeur. I mean, come on now. I also think that's why he went 5th round, because he's just for a backup quarterback in the NFL. If they draft you to be a backup, they don't want you to be. You can't have that much sauce. Like, you got to come in like Josh Johnson and not say nothing, not be seen, because the first pick, the first incomplete pass of the season, those fans gonna be chanting Shedeur's name. And I know a lot of teams can't deal with that. It's kind of like that with, honestly, any black type of quarterback. If you kind of have that aura, they don't want you to be the backup. Cam Newton couldn't do it. Only Tebow kind of fell in that, even though Tebow was kind of bad. Tebow fell in that range too, because one bad play from your quarterback, if the backup quarterback is too polarizing, all hell is going to break loose, and a lot of teams just don't want to deal with that. So I do think Shedeur went out there and balled out in his first game. Didn't play great. I mean, didn't play like perfect, but I think under all circumstances, and he's a 5th round pick, so we got to judge him off being a 5th round pick. So I think for a 5th round pick, he went out there and he played great. So that's my pick. And that'll wrap up this first episode, man, of the Outside Looking In. I promise we'll be back on a more consistent basis this year. Y'all, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Discord, Twitter, all that good jazz. Also have Dre, links in the description as well. Dre, any last words before we get out of here?
No, just looking forward to see where the rest of the preseason goes, with especially these rookie quarterbacks, because I think this year it's going to be an interesting year for the rookie quarterbacks. Even though Cam Ward is number 1, I just don't think there is like that number 1 guy that everybody's like, oh, he's definitely going to be the future, this and that and all that. I think it's up for grabs of who's going to be the best quarterback from this draft class. So I think it's a good thing. And hey, if you picked wrong, you got 2 years to wait for Arch, because he already said he's not coming out next year. So, maybe start your campaign a little early.
And like a Saints fan said, Arch, we can play this game hey, we can play this game whenever you want. We're going to be asked for the next couple of years, buddy. Stop running from us. Come on home. And I'll just end it on that. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in once again. And as always, it's the Boot Tragedies, and we out.